Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. It is Saturday's episode. We don't do Saturday episodes, but because I was out of town on Monday and Tuesday, I want to make up for it. Give you some content. And I got something I want to get off my chest today, a little piece of history that I don't know if you know or not, but I think you should know it. And if you do know it, I think it would behoove all of us to remind ourselves of something that happened a little while back because we're still dealing with it. And it's a major hotbed topic and a debate issue, specifically surrounding our immigration issue and what we've been experiencing with the open border crisis. I'm going to expose some things and remind you from history. So I'm recording this. I'm pre-recording this on Friday afternoon. It's been storming outside, and it's a mess. Thank God for the rain. It's the only way my vehicles ever get washed. Hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. I will remind you that next week I am going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina. Which reminds me, I got to make some flight arrangements. We'll be in Raleigh, North Carolina for our Right Side of Comedy Gulf of America comedy tour. Then that's going to be on a Thursday night, then Marion, Virginia on Friday night, and then Saturday night, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Jesse Payton will be with me. It'll be a good time. Go to watchchad.com and find out the information you need. See if I'm coming to a city near you. We're booking things all the time. We're working on them. Stuff's getting added all the time. What I'd really also like for you to do is get involved with my business. This has been a life changer for me. I just drink this is kind of the residue of it here. I drink one of the Fit. I think this thing is just chock full of the peptides, man. I've done a lot of research on this stuff, and I'm like, what is it that's making me feel so dadgum good? Just positive energy all the time, just mind, clarity, focus, the whole stuff. If you go to watchchad.com, right there at the top of my homepage, you'll see a link with my mug on it, and you can click on it, and you'll go to my website, and you can see. I'll help you if you want to join the business and make a business out of it. I'll remind you guys, Rich Dad Robert Kiyosaki, he said you should always have a network marketing business that you've got going. It's easy. Why not have a business that you don't have to keep inventory, you don't have to pay staff, you don't have to do any of the stuff, worry about distribution, hiring, firing, HR, any of that. You're just putting the product out there that's changing people's lives, and you help people sell. I'm a salesperson. I've always been a part of some form of direct marketing or affiliate marketing program. You guys know this about me. Oh, you're a sellout. No, not really. I've always done it. So it's not much to sell out when you've always done it. And this I love because it makes me feel absolutely incredible. Incredible. So go over to watchchad.com right at the top of the homepage if you're looking for what shows and what cities I'm going to be having or what cities I'm going to be in. Right at the top, right there at the top. Make Wellness. Join me. What else could we get into before I get into this? Let me tell you about my friends over at Patriot Protect, patriot-protect.com. I just got an email from them just a moment ago that said that they're doing another deep dive into my information that's hidden out there on the web and getting that information cleaned off and cleaned out. Patriot-protect.com/Chad. If you use promo code Chad over there, you need to get their monthly service. I think it's like $14 worth every penny of it to make sure that cyber criminals don't have access to your information, your cell phone, your email, your address, all the stuff. And trust me, it's out there. People are literally paying for services, and it pulls your information right up. It's scary to think about. I could tell you stories. But your information's out there. They will clean the websites. They will clean the dark web. They will do a deep dive to get your information out of there so these AI-inspired cyber criminals will not find your information, and they get rid of all the phishing emails and the scam, the calls and all the garbage that's out there, man, and they're doing a great job. I love them, swear by them. Patriot-protect.com/Chad. Go check them out and get their services. Get their services. I'm telling you, you want it. I want to walk you through a moment in American history that really didn't make a sound when it happened. It was just no fanfare, no parades, no fireworks went off. It's still echoing through our culture, and we're dealing with it. It's the border crisis and our elections today. So I want to take you back, not too awfully long ago, really, in the grand scheme of things, back to 1965. And I want to talk to you about the Immigration and Nationality Law bill that was of 1965 that was passed. Don't get bored yet, because this affects all of us right here. It was a more familiar name, the Hart-Celler Act. And the legacy of it was this quiet cultural transformation when the left just found this quiet little switch that was hidden behind the curtain And they flipped the switch. And with that flick of the switch, the America you grew up in, the one that you missed the values of and don't recognize because it's long gone, that's because in 1965, when they threw the switch back there behind that curtain, America, the one you grew up in, it started to disappear. Now, they didn't sound the alarm. There were no angry mobs. There were no protests. There were no ballots cast. But make no mistake, what happened October 3rd, 1965 absolutely changed the future of this nation more than probably any war ever did. It really did. It created a legacy for us that we're still dealing with today. This was the moment that the left figured out that they could not win on argument and debate, so they decided to change the audience. Yeah. Their ideas weren't working. So they decided to change the immigration policy as it existed in 1965. Now, before 1965, America had an immigration system that was based on national origin quotas. Now, people would look at that now and say, well, that's racist. What that meant was our immigration policies, we were picky about who came in here. Now, I don't have a problem with that, and I think we should be that way. But back then, we actually favored the immigrants that came from European countries. And it's not a race issue. It wasn't about the melanin of the skin. They wanted people that came from European countries because specifically they wanted people who shared our founding principles, our language, and in many ways our values. See, the system wasn't about exclusion. It was about assimilation, and that's a bad word. You can't use the word assimilate anymore because that's not politically correct. So, yeah, we welcomed immigrants. We welcomed newcomers, but we expected them to become Americans. You came over here from Sweden, Switzerland, Belgium, wherever. You weren't expected to remain that way. You were supposed to become an American. I mean, we have a congresswoman right now who is more committed to Somalia, where she came from, than she is to being a person who put her hand up in the air and made an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. Her worldview and her religious views and her origin views don't agree with the Constitution of the United States, so there's no possible way that she could defend it. Of course, I'm talking about Ilhan Omar. We expected people to come here and learn the language. We expected them to learn and respect our Constitution. We expected people to work hard. We wanted them to adopt our culture, be a melting pot. There were no bilingual ballots. There was no ethnic enclaves. There was no flying the flag of another nation while demanding rights inside of this one. No, our immigration system wasn't perfect, but it protected the soul of our republic. It had a purpose. And that purpose, as offensive as that may sound today, it actually worked because it was created and existed to protect and preserve what made America, America. And I want to talk to you about who blew the whole thing up. I'll tell you who flipped the switch in 1965, and I will tell you why it's important and what we're dealing with today. But before we do, I want to tell you about something that is great in our country, and that is Backyard Butchers. Go to backyardbutchers.com/Chad. And they are locking in their price now through the rest of the year. If you sign up today and get your delivery box of beef, you can get a whole steer, half steer. They'll deliver it to you every month for a year. You can get your backyard box. You can get your steakhouse box, all the butcher box, all the stuff. You pick what fits your budget and how much meat you need, and they'll send it to you. You know, I live alone. I get my backyard butcher box. Party Foul Steve and Tony, I went over to their house the other day. We made smash burgers. I went out there and cooked them. It's fantastic. We use the Backyard Butcher ground beef. It's beef that comes from Texas ranches, Texas family ranchers. They don't use steroids, no vaccines, none of the garbage that we're pumping in, no chemicals. And it doesn't matter what the meat market does out there at the store. You know, what the economy does to beef out there in the store, because right now there's an issue with supply and demand with a lot of our beef. Prices are going up. They're locking it in now through the end of the year, so you don't have to worry about that happening. No inflation with your beef. So you go to backyardbutchers.com/Chad. Use promo code Chad and save even more. Okay, check them out. You're going to like it. Makes me want a steak. I had one last night, actually. Ready for another one, I think. So, who blew it all up? What happened in 1965? October 3rd. Who blew it all? What changed? Who do we blame? I want to bring some characters on the scene. First of all, you got Democratic Senator Philip Hart. You got Congressman Emanuel Celler, C-E-L-L-E-R. And then you got the king of big government transformation himself, President Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ. That's right. So let's talk about Celler for a second. Now, he'd been trying to dismantle America's national origins immigration policy since the 1940s because he was a New York Democrat. Of course he was. He had a globalist bent. He believed our immigration system was discriminatory. And so, again, like all progressive values, they had to get away from the underlying idea of why we had an origins-based immigration policy. And they said, well, no, we just got to accept everybody in here, just carte blanche, open the doors and let everybody come in here. That was Seller's position. Didn't matter that there were facts or statistics or, logic or critical thinking to back up why we had an immigration based on origins, a system based on origins, or why we cared about assimilation, but we just had to feel good about who was coming in here, according to Sellers. Then you had Senator Hart from Michigan. Of course, he jumped on board in the name of civil rights because that's what they do because they're a bunch of bleeding heart liberals. And then came LBJ, the same man that gave us the Great Society welfare state. I don't have to go into that. The same man who once said, and I quote, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. What a fine caliber of man he was. So in 1965, here's what they did. They got it done. They passed the Hart-Celler Act. They told the public, don't worry about it. Not going to change a thing. LBJ, he said this, and I quote, he said, this bill is not a revolutionary bill, doesn't affect the lives of millions, it's not going to reshape the structure of our daily lives. He said that the bill's not going to change the ethnic makeup of the country. And let me say it for the folks in the back. He said it's not going to change the ethnic makeup of the country. It's not going to change how we assimilate. He said it's not going to impact the labor market. He said it's not going to flood the country with low-skilled workers. He said it's not going to strain welfare or education or infrastructure, and he was wrong. He was either lying, damn wrong, or he was lying, okay? One or the other. You could take your pick. Here's the thing. It affected all of that stuff. Let me tell you what the Hart-Celler Act actually did do. What did the bill do? It eliminated the national origin quotas and replaced them with a system based on family reunification and supposed skills-based preferences. We're hearing Democrats to this day. Didn't Jasmine Crockett just say the other day, she's like, I'm not going to pick your cotton. We can't be deporting people that picking the cotton because I'm not going to go pick the cotton. So again, you had these skills-based preferences. What was it Nancy Pelosi said a couple of years ago that was because of climate change? They were running out of fields to go down there and plow, so they had to come up here to America. Because again, the racist Democrats, they want to say that, there's certain jobs that Americans aren't going to do. So they're still echoing that same garbage trash about skills-based preferences. But ultimately, the whole thing became about family reunification, and they really didn't give a rat's ass about the skills, right? The family reunification clause became the Trojan horse. It still is today. That's why all you had to do during the Biden administration was come to the border and name somebody that was in your family, and they gave you a free ticket to anywhere in the United States. Because suddenly, back in 1965, with the Hart-Celler Act being passed, that immigration and nationality bill, you didn't have to bring in workers with skills. What you were bringing in were uncles and cousins and second cousins and aunties and distant relatives, and the chain migration began. So suddenly it didn't matter if you shared American values or wanted to assimilate or you had a trade or a skill or you spoke English. What mattered is if you could claim a cousin's uncle's barber once lived in Queens. And so we went from preserving culture to just importing it from outside the United States. Somewhere along the line, American culture, assimilating melting pot culture, became a bad word. In short, they cracked the gate open and then they ripped it off the hinges. It became absolutely uncontrollable. This is why great economists like the late Milton Friedman said you can have a welfare state or you can have open borders, but you can't have both. They're going to fall in on themselves, but the left didn't care. See, here's the part they didn't teach you in school. In 1960, 85% of immigrants were from Europe. 85%, that's a big number. By 2010, just 15 years ago, over 80% were from Asia, Latin America, and Africa. Now, I'm not here to demonize any group of people. I'm not. I'm really not. But I am here to ask you this question. What happens to a country when it imports millions and millions of people from cultures with absolutely no shared values, no history of democracy, no incentive to assimilate? Let me tell you what happens. It becomes a house of cards built on a soft, sandy fault line, and it's going to be a garbage society. And the reason it has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It has everything to do with your shared sense of values. If you're not capable of assimilating, then it doesn't matter. Because this wasn't immigration, this was transformation. This was, on the part of the left, slow, silent, and strategic. So I don't have to tell you the numbers because we really don't know the dadgum numbers. From 1965, when the Hart-Celler Act was passed, to today, the soft estimates, the conservative estimates, 60 million immigrants entered the country. We know it's a lot more than that. We know it's a lot more than that. Many of them came through chain migration, and most of them are good people. Really, I contend that. I really do contend that most of them are good folks. But it doesn't take a lot of folks, doesn't take a lot of cancer cells to really mess up the rest, does it? So let me ask you, or you ask yourself, what does it do to a country when its cultural foundation is replaced one generation at a time? You get a balkanization, fragmented identity. English is no longer required. Loyalty to the flag, optional. People burning the very flag that welcomed them, and then the flag came to, what the flag stood for became diminished. And so now in the 60s and 70s, you got people that are running out on a baseball field, lighting it on fire out there in right field. Because again, the flag became something that was an enemy to immigration, or an enemy to open borders, or an enemy to, just loving everybody. And feelings started to take over your facts because we were in the advent, the precursor, the very visible pregnancy of postmodernism, where facts didn't matter anymore. So what do? You toss out the values, and with the values, you toss out all the symbols that ever meant anything. So the flag doesn't mean anything. The anthem doesn't mean anything. The Pledge of Allegiance doesn't mean anything. Prayer doesn't mean anything. The Ten Commandments doesn't believe anything. The church is, marginalized and put out there on the fringe of society. And no longer is there that voice out there of common sense and reason and critical thinking. So again, you're going to burn the flag that welcomed you here. Well, here's the deal. And this is what makes it so horrendously a nightmare. I mean, Freddy Krueger level nightmare. The left planned it this way. Tens of millions of immigrants cross our borders. Most of them they're from countries that had no cultural ties to America's founding ideals whatsoever. Folks, that's not a demographic shift. That's a cultural revolution. And you know what? It's done and won without a single shot being fired. And it was all by design, because the left realized something. They realized that if they couldn't win on ideas, well, crap, they just changed the electorate. They just changed the audience. If they can't win the debate, they'll just change the people who are sitting in the room. Why? Because these new populations, many of them who came in here dependent on social services and welfare and a reliance on the big tit of the federal government, they were easy votes. They didn't know the Constitution, but they knew who gave them food stamps. This wasn't diversity. That's not diversity. That's demographic warfare, folks. Now, what are the consequences of this? And I'm gonna close and leave you alone. Let's fast forward to 2025, where we're living today. We got a full-blown border invasion that we've lived with for the last, decade for sure. George W. Bush was not hard on the border. Barack Obama, he was the deporter-in-chief, but a lot came across. Trump shut a lot of that stuff down. Joe Biden, we don't even have to talk about Joe Biden. We know what happened with Joe Biden. We gotta have this, we gotta pass this act, And as Trump said, you didn't need another bill, you needed a better president. And now we're down to 99.99% reduction in border crossings. And I think last week at the time of this recording, they only encountered like 3 or 4 people. But for the last 4 years especially, we've had millions upon millions, untracked, untraceable people pouring across our porous southern border. Sanctuary cities absolutely overwhelmed. I mean, they were cheering with glee, these mayors. And now look at guys like Eric Adams. They can't, Eric Adams got to the point where he had to buck the system. They got people from Denver, which is a sanctuary city down there at the border, handing out pamphlets to people coming across saying, don't go to Denver. We don't have room for you. San Diego, they're dropping busloads of illegals on the curbs because their funds for immigrants have run out. But they're getting off anyway. La Jolla, California, you remember the year before last, a boat load with like 15 illegals hits the shore, and they just leave the boat, abandon ship, and just take off running out through La Jolla. They're in America. Your hotels have turned into refugee camps. Your tax dollars are footing the bill. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that the people trying to stop it, you, me, your neighbors, we're the ones that are labeled the fascists and the bigots and the racists and the Nazis. What did Milton Friedman say? What did I tell you? You can't have both. You can't have an open border and a welfare system running simultaneously. You got American veterans, folks, sleeping on the sidewalk, sleeping on the streets. Fentanyl's killing our kids. 300,000 children are missing because of trafficking. Cartels running the border like a business, a mega billion-dollar business. Millions crossing the southern border. I don't even have to tell you about the 1,221 miles of Texas that borders Mexico. We got cities like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles overwhelmed. Entire school systems are collapsing under the weight of students that don't speak English. Hospitals, they can't keep up. Crime is going through the roof and rising even further. Identity is fractured. And guess who benefits? The freaking left benefits. And they're so shocked, aren't they? Like they didn't flip the switch. I guarantee you this is a history that Kamala Harris doesn't know when she's like, don't come. That's not a border policy from the border czar. They flipped the switch back in 1965. They created a permanent underclass of dependent voters. They trained them to associate open borders with handouts. Why, when Biden was in office, did the masses, tens of thousands at a time, parade up through Mexico to come to our southern border? And as soon as they knew Biden was out and Kamala Harris had lost and Trump was back in, they immediately said, we can't go. We can't go. They literally said that on the interviews. They knew they weren't going to be able to get in. They knew that with every handout, the liberals knew, the progressives knew, going all the way back to 1965, they knew that they were going to vote blue. Those handouts came with that check mark on the ballot. Every wave of illegal immigration is a gift-wrapped box of ballots for the left. This isn't compassion, folks. It's conversion by dilution. Look around you. What happened to shared values? What happened to that? I got a song out. What happened to that? What happened to a common tongue? What happened to civic pride? Why are there people with pro-Palestinian flags out in the street? Why are we more excited? Why are segments of our culture more protective of a pride flag than they are Old Glory? What happened to civic pride? What happened to the idea that America's not just a place, but America is a people, America is a spirit, America is a grand idea? You can't have unity without assimilation, and you can't have assimilation when you've abandoned the very culture you're asking people to adopt. It's gone. It's lost. You don't get American identity through osmosis. It takes intention. It takes teaching, training, boundaries. Folks, we didn't lose that on accident. It was given away. So what do? Well, we don't whine, we act. And we did act in November 5th. We put Trump back in office. An overwhelming percentage of Americans voted, not on the popular vote, but the Electoral College. We responded. But I want you to know, folks, if you're a patriot, if you don't know where the fire started, you'll never be able to stop the smoke. Because the 1965 Immigration Act, that was the fire. I'm allergic to talking, apparently. You know, the fire didn't explode, man. It simmered, just quietly, cunningly, just the long walk, slow walk. But today that fire has become an inferno, folks. It's our national identity. And the identity is melted into it. So that's why I don't care what you call me. It's time to tell the truth. It's time to tell the truth boldly and loudly. I don't care what label they put on me. It's time to demand that those borders, the culture, the language, the law, demand it. Because if you lose those, you don't just lose control, you lose your country. So yes, we do unapologetically have to end the chain migration. Why do you think these liberal, rogue, progressive, crazy, lefty, lunatic judges are so dead hell bent on bringing those deportees back? I mean, they're defending this Garcia guy, the MS-13 gang member, who was not a peach of a human being. I mean, if you listen to the 911 call that his wife sent in about how much he was slapping her around, or when she was talking to, the police or whatever, about how much he was slapping her around, and now they got her out there. They're paying this woman to talk about like, oh, they took my husband away. She didn't want him back. But boy, they're fighting to get him back. I mean, they're supporting that dude as hard as a dadgum. I mean, you'd think he was a transgender boxer or something like that. I mean, this guy slaps women around too. And they're defending him. The left is. Why do you think they're fighting so hard to get him back? Because this was their plan all along. They can't win on the merit of their ideas and ideals, and so they have to change the audience. You can't deport their audience without a fight. Their audience, their voters, their bloc that they are counting on to keep power for the future are getting sent overseas, sent to El Salvador, or sent home. Got to end the chain migration, folks. Immigration shouldn't be merit-based. You got to bring in the best, not the nearest relative. Yeah, we need to keep building the wall. I heard at the White House this week that, another 85 miles of wall. There's a lot more to go, but another 85 miles of strategic wall have been built since Trump has come into office, January 20th. Our border security, it's not optional. A nation without a border is not a nation. Simple as that. Another thing that we're working on, I know that we're working on this, and it needs to happen. You got to, Trump has announced it, make English the official language. Unity starts with communication. You can't unify with somebody you can't talk to. You got to repeal the birthright citizenship for illegal aliens. Listen, the 14th Amendment was never meant to reward lawbreakers. It wasn't. And man, we got to teach people civics and assimilation. If you want to be American, God, you got to learn what that means. And don't give me the pompous look either. The pious, I know all the. No, I got people who don't even understand how a primary election works. I ran for office, and it's amazing to me. People didn't even know how a primary worked. Folks, we don't need more diversity. We're diverse. And you know what? We were moving well past the idea that racism was controlling our day in and day out lives until that racist-in-chief Barack Obama hit the office. Set our race relations back 70 years. Folks, we got plenty of diversity. Most of the Fortune 500 companies out there actually have a chief diversity officer to make sure that the employees are diverse. But we don't need more diversity. We need more unity. And we need them in something specifically. We need it in American values. So listen to me, folks. I want you to remember this. The 1965 Immigration Act, it didn't just change who could come to America. It changed what America would become. It didn't just change who could come to America. It changed what America was going to become. They didn't ask your permission when they did it either, folks. They didn't care about the consequences. They just wanted voters. And now, yes, they wanted voters. Yes. So every time the left says, that's not true, they're not voting, illegals can't vote, shut up. That was their plan all along because they can't win on their ideas. And you know what? They want to shame you for noticing. They want to label you for noticing. But now you know. Now you see the roots. And with that knowledge comes responsibility. So let's hold ourselves accountable to it and continue to tell this story and expose the left for what they are. Go back to 1965, look it up yourself, and share it with your family members and remind them what LBJ and his cronies tried to do back then. The Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965. All right, guys, don't forget, backyardbutchers.com/Chad. Use patriot-protect.com/Chad. Go to watchchad.com where all the fun stuff is. Check me out. Get on those clearance. We still got some inventory. We got some clearance items over there that we're trying to get rid of over at prathertees.com. I want to get rid of them because eventually we got another apparel thing that's coming. And get on my Make Wellness team. You can go to watchchad.com and click on the link up there at the top. I got to go clean this out and get me some hydrated. I need more water, I can tell. I need more water. I love you guys. God bless you. Have the rest of your weekend let it be fantastic, okay? Check me out in a city near you. And I will see you bright and early Monday morning for the Dear America program. I love you. God bless you. And I'll talk to you then. Bye.